Hello and welcome to today's episode of Value in the Community. My name is Irene Abimbiade. I'm your host. Today I've got with me three young adults, and together we will be looking at what it's like growing up as a young adult, as a youth in today's society, within the church, within the home. And today the young adults who have joined me are Tammy. Welcome, Tammy, to the program.
Thank you.
It's great to have you. I've also got Winnie. Winnie, you're most welcome.
Thank you for having me.
And last but not the least, I have got Marie. Marie, you're most welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for coming on the program today. As we were saying before the program commenced, it's a great opportunity, this program, to be able to share and discuss with you, to find out what your views are. Because oftentimes I feel like we don't hear from you, your age group, as much as we would like to. And by that I mean we adults and society in general. And it would be great, even though I know that you have your own platform where you interact, where you mingle freely, but it would be nice for adults to really know what you guys are all about. It would be nice for adults to understand you a bit better, and maybe for you also to understand where we're coming from a bit better. So we hope that by so doing that we'll be able to bridge that gap between adults and the youth and the young adults. So I'm going to start today by asking the question, what has it been like for you as youth, as single adults, as young adults growing up in the society? What's it been like? What's your experience been like? And any one of you can answer that.
Well, I would say that our generation is, I don't know, there's probably a word for it, but we're a generation of social media, generation of information. So we use a lot of social media nowadays to maybe post our outfit of the day or to face of the day, makeup. So yeah, it's a lot that we, I guess, share our lives with other people. So that's what's different, I guess, in terms of, what we're sharing with others. So that's different from previous generation. I'm sure there's a lot of things that we do as well that our parents wouldn't have done, or they might have done when they were younger, but they don't want us to do it. They don't want us to go through the same experiences that they did. So yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing that, Marie. Anyone else wants to share what's it been like for you growing up in today's society, in this 21st century? Because that's where you have grown up, really, all of you.
I'd say for me, looking back, one thing that I think is not necessarily being a generation where we just not just say yes, but just to go for things that we're told just because we want to understand the why behind things. So I remember growing up, my parents, going to church with my parents and not actually understanding why we're going to church. I just thought that's what we do. We just go to church. And when I started to get older, when I was a teenager, I started to have a lot of questions about, okay, why are we doing this? Why is this and why is that? And I think African parents especially find questions about why so irritating. Their thing is, just do it because I said so. And for us, that's not quite enough. We want to understand. And I think it's very important to understand, because in order to share something, in order to teach someone something, it's better to teach them like why, the principle behind what you're doing, so then they can replicate it. So I think growing up for me, it was just always that battle of, so why do we have to do this and why do we have to do that, just to understand. And I don't think it was coming from a place of rebellion. It was just coming from a place where I do want to understand. And I think that was significant for me because my parents were not born in this country. They grew up in Africa. And I think there was this kind of cultural conflicts where, okay, I'm, trying to learn the culture, my culture, I'm from Nigeria, and learn the traditions, but then that's not necessarily the way here in England. So you're going to school with kids who can call their parents by their first name, and you're calling your mum, mum, or even some people have to, call their parents ma and sa. So it was just always that kind of struggle where in school you're one way, then at home you're another way, and then in church potentially even another way, because you also find that in church you have to kind of put up this facade where everything is great, and then you go home and it may not necessarily be that way. So I think it was, for me, quite challenging to be almost three different people or mixed with three different environments, and I'm one person, and having to constantly adapt to school or to church or to home. So that's kind of one of my experiences, I'd say.
Oh, thank you very much for sharing that, Marie and Winnie. That's very insightful. Tammy, do you want to add anything to what Winnie and Marie have shared?
Yes, I do. More on the point of why there might be conflicts between both generations. I feel like more on what Marie said about social media and that being such a huge deal in our age. I feel like we're more aware of everything around us, and we're also aware of the opportunities that we have as well. So like for the older generation, what I used to know is you go to university, you have to go to university, you have to do your masters, have to do PhD, and then you become a doctor or something like that, or you become a lawyer or something like that. But now we're more open to more ways to get money, more ways to have a career. I know university is obviously still important, but now that we're more aware of ways around that, and people have been so successful without going to university because they focused on their craft. And I feel like there might be some conflicts with the older generation because they didn't have those opportunities, so they might not understand why someone's making 5 million a year from YouTube or something like that. So I feel like with that there's a conflict there. And yeah, that the older generation is adapting, but because they've already been through their life and they're just pretty much looking after their children now, they feel it's going to be hard for them to adapt. So I kind of get it in that sense, but I think that's where the conflict lies.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tammy. You've all shared your experiences. Tammy and Marie, you've mentioned social media. You looked at things from the social media aspect. And Winnie, you talked about the conflicts, adapting between different worlds, different environments. You spoke about the church, you've spoken about the home, and of course the society itself, and how adults view things, and how you view things, and the different, how you're trying to marry the different, or fitting into the different environments, and almost like satisfy everyone, be what everyone wants in each different environment, and that can be conflicting sometimes for you. And Tammy, you've also expressed the same. I mean, you've mentioned why there might be the conflict. And I want to ask you, because do you find this pressure, this conflict, do you find that it puts or applies some kind of pressure on you personally in growing up? And if it does it, how have you been able to handle it in your own cases? Because you are all three of you are in your 20s right now. So did this conflict, did it put a pressure on you? And if it has, or if it did, how were you able to handle it and overcome it?
For me, I was never in school, secondary school. I was never the straight A student. I'm okay saying that now because I'm older and, God willing, I've become a bit more successful than I thought I would. But I really thought that I was finished. Like, I thought that because I wasn't getting straight A's and everything, and my university wasn't a Russell Group university, I really thought that I would not make it to where I have in life at all. So I feel like I was pressured a lot in that way. Like, you absolutely have to. I know the thing is, I don't want it to make it look like I'm saying education is not important. Obviously it is, but I just feel like there was a lot of unnecessary pressure for me in particular, and I wish I was able to also, as well as my education, also understand that, also work on my other crafts or other talents. Because if I was at least okay in education and then working on my other talents, I feel like I would be able to build up to all be like the same. I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but I feel like there was a lot of pressure on me when it came to education, and considering that I tried so hard and I wasn't as smart as like the other people in my year who weren't trying as hard as me, it just made it much worse.
Thank you for sharing that, Tammy, because that's quite important, what you said. And please, ladies, anyone else wants to share on that topic?
I agree. I think a lot of the pressure growing up would obviously be education, because as far as parents are concerned, you have no other responsibilities. Education is your focus at that point. And similar to Tammy, I think for me, it was education as well. I remember being maybe 10 or 11, and my dad actually took me to Oxford and pointed at the university and said, you know, this is the uni that you're going to. And at that point, I didn't even understand any of those things. And I don't think it was coming from a bad place, if I'm honest. I think based on the information that our parents had back then, that was the way. And that just shows how much they wanted us to, or want us to be successful and to have good lives and have the opportunities that they didn't have. So they pushed us towards the things that they deemed as important or successful. And I think growing up, for me, one of the ways that I dealt with that and managed that, and by the way, I'm not a doctor now, and I didn't go to Oxford, but, you know, me and my dad still get along. One of the ways that I think I've dealt with that over the years is being respectful. Again, like I said, I don't think it came from a bad place. And I know that some parents tend to maybe go overboard with the pushing and the encouraging of go and be a doctor or go and be a lawyer. But then understanding that it's coming from a place of love, and you know, the love language may be different, but it's coming from a place of love. It's coming from a place of wanting you to do well. So not necessarily getting angry at my parents at that point, but communicating the things that I did want to do. You know, I really wanted to model. I used to want to be a model. I wanted to sing. I was into all the creative stuff, and they just didn't see it as being profitable. So they always pushed me towards science and allowed me to do those things as a hobby. So one thing I'll say is communicate your passions and desires. Tammy spoke about building your other gifts. So, you know, going to school and everything like that does not stop you from still taking up lessons, doing vocal lessons, learning an instrument. It doesn't stop you from doing any of those things. And I think for parents as well, especially if you're under the age of 18 and you're living under their roof, like, you have to find a way to make it work. You still have to be respectful, and there's a way to build your skills and all those other things that you want to do and still go to school. I think it's really important that you do. And over time, I think our parents begin to see the fruits of this other thing that we're doing. They may not agree with it in the beginning, but when they start to see it working, like, okay, you made money from this skill or this hobby. Okay. And I think our parents do want us to make money as well. So they like that until they feel like it's maybe worth stopping everything else. It's never going to be enough. So one of the ways was definitely communicating, being respectful. And when I got to a particular age, my dad saw that, okay, I don't want to do what he's pushing me to do, but I also have my head screwed on. So he could trust my work ethic. He could trust that I'm actually serious about the things that I like. So he then allowed me to go and do what I want to do, knowing that I was being responsible at the time. So it gave that bit more of trust for them to just allow me to do what it is that I felt like I wanted to do.
Thank you very much for that, Winnie. So you had other things that you wanted to do, but you found a way around it. You found a way that by communicating with your parents, by showing them what you wanted to do, and by seeking their approval, getting their approval, working along with their getting their respect, getting their attention, communicating. You spoke a lot about communicating with them. So communication was quite key for you in achieving what you wanted to achieve, and everybody saw a way around it. And I think from Marie's message, it's quite, and both of you really what you said. Before I go over to Marie, because I'm sure Marie too has her own point of view that she wants to put across. What I'm getting from what both of you have said, ladies, it's quite important that adults also see or try to understand what the young ones are gifted in. So as well as education, as well as we all want our children to be educated, we want them to be educated to the highest level so that they get the good. So they have the best of all worlds. Really, it's important to look and assess the strengths of our children, of the young ones, see what other skills, what other strengths they have, and maybe encourage them a bit more to build up on this strength so that they have more opportunities available to them in life. That's what I believe that I'm getting from what you both have said.
And just to add to that, sorry, I loved how you said about having like a whole approach to just growing as a whole, because even now working, I can see how perhaps picking up guitar lessons when I was younger would have even just helped me relate with people better. It's so interesting that the things that we don't think are relevant are relevant. And even now in the job world, it's not just about your degree or your master's, it's about your experiences, how well you can relate with people. So if you were somebody who was always home, always studying, always revising, don't have communication skills, because as you just never really communicated with people, you just wanted to speak with the books, compared to someone who balanced it, so they had the education but they know how to play with people, they know how to joke with people, they had guitar lessons, and they were also part of the youth group, and they also volunteered. Like, you just have a way of relating with different people, and it actually comes across. And I find even now with work, more of my job is working with people and dealing with people's personalities than the actual job that I'm doing, if that makes sense. The issues I have at work is never really to do with the work that I'm doing. It's usually a manager or a colleague or a customer, and it's just dealing with people. And I think that although it doesn't seem relevant, but doing extra things, having hobbies, going on holiday, those are actually things that help you in work, just in terms of how you relate with people, with the things you learn, picking up those different things to have as conversations with colleagues and with people.
Thank you very much for that, Sammy and Winnie. Marie, I know that you've been waiting patiently to put your points across. What do you think about this?
No, I completely agree with that, what both of them are saying. I mean, from young, I was always told that I was named after a doctor, so I must be a doctor. I never had any free time. I was always in tutoring after school, French lessons, piano lessons, dance, singing. Like, literally every single day of the week I was doing something. And I thought to myself, why do I have no time to relax? But those things are privileges. Like, people don't all get the opportunity to have those kind of lessons and tutoring and everything like that. So it's all coming from a place of love. I think just actually understanding that from my parents' point of view, that they just want the best for me, and they just want me to be as successful as I possibly can be and have all the opportunities that I need. It's just trying to think of it from their point of view, and understand that it's a place of love, really. So yeah.
Sorry, this is back to the point that I was talking to you about earlier, when we were saying we were talking about thanking our parents for the things they've taught us. Like, Marie having all these lessons and all these opportunities, like, to me as an adult, that's amazing, because I'm thinking, wow, they really, because I know how much well, I don't really know, but I mean, I can imagine how much it will cost to have all those lessons, having your mum driving you up and down to all those activities or however you got there. So as an adult, I can understand that how amazing that is. But I can imagine as a child thinking that is way too much that you had to do.
Yeah, because it would be school and then after school straight somewhere else, like literally every single day of the week, including Sunday. There would be church and then there'll be swimming lessons. So there was no real rest time.
No break.
Yeah, I mean it's easy to be, I guess, ungrateful. I don't want to use that word, but I think I was a little ungrateful at times. But yeah, now as an adult or young adult, I can really see the benefit of all those things. I had those opportunities. Yeah.
Sorry, I also liked what Winnie said earlier when she was talking about what, like, she likes to know why, because I completely agree with that. I feel like at that age or when you're younger, you need to know why you're doing things, and you can't just get. I feel like the answer of it will be better for you in the future or something like that. I think you needed like a deeper explanation so you can really go back and thank your parents after. But I just feel like parents need to do a bit better when they're with giving explanations to why they have to do things and actually breaking down how it would help you in the future. Because I really liked your point about people actually gaining experiences from where they are. Like it gives them a better personality and it makes them more relatable. Do you get what I mean? If you just stick to your books the whole time, you're just going to be so blank. I cannot even imagine someone that's just literally just read their books all the time, didn't do any extra activities or anything like that. So I feel like it all plays a part with each other.
Yeah, and even to add to that, I think I can't stress the importance enough. I think since I've started working, I've really seen how there's so much more to life than like either getting a qualification or things like that. And we see it in movies as well, like, you know, the people who, they make jokes of it, but I guess they're trying to amplify this message of when people are just book smart, sometimes it rubs people off the wrong way because you know all this information is great, but you don't know how to communicate it in a way that other people want to listen to you. So all they're hearing is almost like, I guess we're all a part of churches. So imagine having someone who understands the Bible, they know all the scriptures, and they're just reciting scripture at you and not teaching you the scripture. And I think that comes up as well. If you have all the degrees and all the masters, but you have no experiences, you don't know how to relate with people. When you start working, you're just that person who's just only quotes the books, but outside of the script of your job or your qualification, you almost have nothing, like a blank sheet of paper. And, you know, we see it at work where people want to go for drinks, people want to go out and socialize. There's so much more to things than just that. So I think it's really important.
A good balance is important. Really.
Thank you very much for that, ladies. That's very insightful. So all those things, even though you didn't appreciate those things at the time, but you found, all of you have found those things useful, the extra lessons, the guitar lessons, the music lessons, you know, all those things that you did, they have helped you. Winnie said a lot of those things have helped her in the way that she relates with people at work. And Marie Fancy, you also mentioned that it's helped you, and Tammy as well. So that's really great to hear. What the message I'm getting is we should really have more of an open mind and to look at other options as well as books. Books are extremely important. They offer you a kind of knowledge, but we should also look at widening or broadening the horizons of our children, of our young ones, even whilst they're growing up. Now, this leads me to my next question, ladies. What about schools? You know, you go through school, you learn things so that you can go on to the next stage. So you left school with primary, secondary, and then going on to the university and going on. So how has school prepared you for the future, or for university, or where you are now? What role do you think that the school plays? Either way.
I think the different schools have different contributions. So, for example, I think in secondary school, that's the stage where you should have really built your skills in maths, English, and science, and really been good at the core subjects, I guess. And also experience other additional subjects. Obviously, when you get to year 9, I think you get to pick your options. So I think secondary school is about learning the core, and it's the part where you really need to, especially from year 9 to 11, was it 10? Yeah, year 9 to 11, right? Where you get your GCSEs and really focus, because you need obviously your GCSEs to get into college and do or sixth form and do the course that you want to do. I think college sixth form for me was more about responsibility, teaching you responsibility, because now you have deadlines, you have coursework. You don't have to go to school at 9 and finish at 3. You have lessons that may start at 11, and so you need to make sure that although you don't have lessons in the morning, you make your way to the classes. So it's less regulated than secondary school, where it was almost mandatory. So sixth form college for me was more responsibility and just kind of giving me a little bit of power to manage my time. And I loved the freedom as well of going to my own classes, having my own plan and really planning my time and owning my time. And I think university, aside from obviously the degree itself, was a time of learning a lot about myself and other people and other cultures. Because I think, again, secondary school and college, you're in a restricted area where you're limited to people that live in your close vicinity, like your borough. And if you're in a borough where it's prominently one race, you're mixing with that race a lot. Whereas with university, we are all going to university. So you find it's probably the most diverse educational institution, because now it's outside of your hometown. Some of us want to move out and go to university. So I think I learned a lot about different people, different friendship groups, the kind of people that I like, the kind of people I don't like. And I learned a lot about myself at university, because again, that freedom, living alone, knowing what foods I like just, I learned so much about myself. And it was really a time that I was able to connect even closer to God at the time as well, and with different people, and make friends that I probably wouldn't have made if I was in college, because I wouldn't have had access to those kinds of people.
Thank you very much for that, Winnie. So, ladies, anyone else wants to add anything to that?
I feel like you pretty much covered it. When Auntie asked the question, I was a bit confused at first, because I was thinking, how did secondary school prepare me for life? But I think with secondary school, it's more of a social thing. So I was able to make friends and know how to hang out with different people. But I think sixth form is really where it was the shocker that prepared me for life. It's just so different to secondary school. When our teachers were warning us, I didn't believe them. But I feel like sixth form was really what prepared me for university life, because I was able to, like Winnie said, you don't have to be in school all day, more flexible hours, more hard work, more deadlines. So yeah, I agree with that. University for me, there was a lot of we had a lot of diverse people in there, different ages. It wasn't like you've just gone straight from sixth form and gone straight to university. We had a lot. I was able to make older friends, younger friends. Yeah, it was good.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree with what both of you have said. It's school, sixth form, university, they're all just different stages in life. So where secondary school was more, I guess I didn't take it too seriously, because you go to your lessons, you have your timetable, they give it all, basically hand feed it to you. So yeah, it was more about socializing for me, and I didn't have to try so hard in secondary school in terms of like the education side. But when it got to sixth form, that was another story. So yeah, it was different. I always say as well that sixth form was harder for me than university. I don't know if you guys have the same thing though.
No, I don't agree with you, but do explain.
I found sixth form really difficult. But yeah, they all prepare you for the different stages in your life. So yeah,
I'm glad to hear that. So it seems like you all have different experiences. It seems like your sixth form was a defining moment for all of you for different, maybe for different reasons. But like there was a lot going on at sixth form. Marie, you say that it was very difficult. Tammy disagreed. But
It was very difficult, but not compared to university.
okay.
I think it was just like a big jump from secondary school to sixth form.
Yeah.
You had a lot more responsibility. I mean, the responsibility was fine. It was just the level of work was just different on another level. So yeah, I found that difficult to adjust to that at first. But then obviously you adjust, and once you get to university, it's easier because you've been through that experience. You know how to revise. I mean, it's things that you learn more. You just adapt to the time. So yeah.
One thing I really enjoyed one thing I really learned about from my university, I went to University of Bedfordshire, and it's I'm not sure if you heard about the uni, but we have all sorts of people in that university. And one thing I really learned from that is life is not as straightforward. I always thought it was okay. Go to secondary school, sixth form, university, whatever. Then maybe get married, have kids, stuff like that. But life comes at you so hard, and I feel like I met a lot of people from my university who have been through so many different things in life that had brought them back to university. So it's not necessarily in a bad way, but it just really opened my eyes to life in general, and that anything can happen, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing if anything doesn't go exactly the way you want in life. You can still, all hope is not lost. So if I didn't go to university at the stage that I did go to university, I know now that I still have the opportunity to go back to do it. I know my mum would really have loved for me to do my master's, but that's not where I'm at right now. But I know now that if I wanted to go back and do it, even if I'm 50 or 60, I still have the opportunity to do that.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, ladies. The next thing I want to ask you is, because all three of you ladies are Christians, you're members of the church. I want to ask you, what has being a member of the church? How has that helped you growing up, even from when you were young, growing up at home? How has that helped you? How has that helped you to become who you are today? How has that helped you to be able to live the lives that you're living today? And any one of you could start with that.
Okay, if no one's going first, I'll just go. With me, I feel like my journey has been quite complicated. I'm from a very, very religious family. My mother is very, very religious. Ridiculous, I wear. So